I think we're live. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast. I'm Lindsay Dollinger, your host, and we are here today with Rachel Mark, who I am so excited for you guys to meet. Rachel's just incredible. I have known her it's been almost a year now in the mastermind that I'm in, and it's just really exciting to see the work that she and her business partner are doing. So, Rachel, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Okay, let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, how did you get started doing it, all the fun stuff.
Amazing. So I am a registered acupuncturist and an integrative health coach, and I've been doing this work I've been in the health field for almost 20 years now. I've been working as an acupuncturist for almost 10, and I got into this work because I was a ballet dancer growing up. I had so many injuries and had a family experience with acupuncture and was just drawn to this form of medicine. So when I was then injured as, a young teenager, I said to my parents, I want to go and see that magical acupuncturist. And I was just hooked. I was so fascinated about the body and how you could affect energy in the body. And it just set me on this really now lifelong learning path around better understanding our bodies, better understanding this real innate capacity that we all have to heal. I believe so strongly that we can have different languages around healing and anatomy and physiology. I have a very Western medical background before I went into acupuncture, studying kinesiology and exercise therapy. And I just think we're all really trying to say the same thing, which is that our bodies have an ability to heal when we give ourselves that opportunity, and when we're putting into our bodies the right things, when we're taking out the things that aren't serving. And it really comes down to supporting our nervous system health and getting to the root cause of what's going on.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So you've kind of always done this as an adult, right? This wasn't something that you started doing something different and then transition, you knew that this was your path.
It's taken a while, I would say, to get exactly here. As I said, I was a ballet dancer growing up. I was dancing in a pre-professional company apprenticeship program, and I was in a really serious car accident, which essentially stopped my ability to do that. And so when that happened, it became a really clear transition for me to start studying exercise science, because I had always been so interested in anatomy and physiology and how our bodies moved and worked. And as I continued then through an undergrad degree and a master's degree in exercise psychology and understanding human motivation, and I was working in that field, I just sort of thought, well, there's something here that's missing. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it right away. But when I was looking deeper into it, what I realized was what was missing was that additional richness to the conversation of healing, that we really needed to look at our bodies as a whole, to our bodies as an interconnected system. And it made me come back to my experiences with acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, and then go to school additionally for that. And now I feel like I weave all the pieces into the work that I do when I see people in person, and then also when I'm doing online health coaching as well.
Okay, that's so cool. I love all of that. So backing it up a little bit, super basic, would you explain to us kind of how acupuncture works? I'll be honest, I've never actually had it done. I've been a little nervous to ever do it, although I have heard really great things about it. So for someone out there, perhaps like myself, who's not entirely sure what it does and how it works, can you give a third grader explanation for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So acupuncture is based on the system of traditional Chinese medicine, which is a system of medicine that has been around for thousands of years. And historically, people started making associations between certain points on our body and basically impacts that it would elicit. So a really common example is an acupuncture point that is right between your thumb and index finger. I'm pointing to that on the screen for those of you that are listening. It's right on the top of your hand, just between your thumb and index finger. And that's really well known for headaches. And a lot of people who even don't know about acupuncture may have heard about that point. And essentially over time, it was just discovered that when I press that point, my headache goes away. And so they started making these associations with hundreds of different points on the body, with this idea that really there is energy that's moving through our bodies, and that when we have dysregulation, and that shows up as symptoms or pathology in the body, that it is due to something that is an imbalance within that energy system. And we can think about energy sort of on all levels. So if you're more of like the Western physiology mind, you think about cellular flow, right? All of our cells, our atoms, our energy, and we think about how those cells are functioning. And if you're over on the more esoteric, maybe woo-ish side, then we can think of it more as like energy, chi, as we call it in Chinese medicine, prana, they talk about it in Ayurvedic medicine. So there is that spectrum, and you can think of it sort of any way that you want. And so acupuncture is the process of putting a very, very small, I emphasize really, really small, and I always say whoever decided to call it a needle did our profession a real disservice, because it's so different than what a needle is used for, like a blood draw or an injection or anything like that. But it really is this teeny tiny needle about the size of a human hair that's inserted into a point on the skin it elicits a change in the electromagnetic field in your body. And so there's a number of ways in which acupuncture works, and one is through down regulating your nervous system, which is a big passion of mine around supporting nervous system regulation. Acupuncture is one tool that we can do to do that. The other is that it helps to release endorphins in our bodies that help us feel good, elicit a better effect in terms of our health, and it helps to rebalance that energy system. So there's a number of ways in which acupuncture can serve us well.
Oh my gosh, I definitely need to go book an appointment now. After you said
Yeah.
that, I'm like, yes, sign me up. I think the idea of the needle is the thing that kind of always freaked me out a little bit. And I swear I've heard someone like do a horror story where they're like, if they insert it the wrong place or whatever, they could puncture your XYZ organ. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's true. It is true. And
yeah,
that's why, licensed acupuncturists go through rigorous schooling and training and board exams and certifications, just like if you have surgery or you have, a shot or anything, a blood draw, there's risks associated with that. There's always risks. And if you are seeing someone who is well trained, the risks are very, very, very small.
yeah, yeah. I know my sister's on it and she's seen some really great relief from it. And so, yeah, so this is so fascinating. All right, let's talk about the nervous system regulation, because that is something, you just mentioned it again. And I know that's what we wanted to really focus on for the women listening to this who are our business owners. So, what could that possibly look like? And why is it important in our business?
Mm-hmm. Great question. I think I will start with the second half of your question and zoom out a little bit, because it's helpful to understand bare bones basic of what the nervous system is, so then we can understand how it's actually affecting us in our business and our day-to-day lives. So within our nervous system, which I always describe it as like the communication pathway within our bodies. So it is basically taking information from our brains down our spinal cords to our organs, to our extremities, and sending commands out that way. And then it is bringing in information from our environment, from our surroundings, in terms of safety cues, our senses, and then sending that information back to our brain to process. So it is really the controlling factor of everything that happens within our bodies. And when we talk about nervous system, really from a place of nervous system regulation, we think about in our businesses, we're thinking about a section of our nervous system called the autonomic nervous system. And so the autonomic nervous system is exactly what it sounds like. It's automatic. So it does all the things in your body that you don't have to think about. You don't have to think about your heart beating. You don't have to tell your lungs to breathe. You don't have to tell your blood to move to certain places in your body. You don't have to tell your pupils to dilate or restrict. So there are all sorts of things that our body just does automatically, which if we actually had to process it and think about it, would be a full-time job in and of itself. So luckily, our autonomic nervous system is doing that. And within our autonomic nervous system, there's two divisions. So there is what's called the sympathetic nervous system, which is known also as our fight, flight, freeze system. This is our body's activation response or stress response. On the other side, we have what's called our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest system. This is where we can be in a state of ease, a state of calm, and our body is, healing, recovering, digesting food, functioning more proactively versus reactively. So when we think about being busy women, being business owners, maybe having a full-time job on the side, having lots of things going on, a lot of times people are spending more and more time in that sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, freeze, activation response. And it's really important to spend time over there because it gives our bodies motivation. It gives us the kick to do things that we want to do. It prompts creativity. It sort of creates a sense of urgency. It's really important to spend time over there. And most people, and I think about entrepreneurship and, busy moms and people with a lot of stuff on the go, they're basically living with their foot on the gas in that sympathetic system. And it's too much. And so over time, when our body has been stressed out in this stress response for a long time, the impact of that can start to take a toll. And we can start to see symptoms that come up. And that can be things like digestive changes. So maybe changes in cravings or weight gain or constipation, diarrhea, like different changes to bowel movements. It can be changes to libido. It can be painful or irregular periods. It can be headaches and body pain. Insomnia is a big one. Feelings of anxiety. So we can start to see these symptoms come up, and that's not really the place that we want to be operating our businesses from, right? We want to feel our best. We want to be out there being able to talk about the things that we love and not feeling like our businesses are bringing us down. So understanding your nervous system and how to work with it versus having it work against you or working against it, I think is more really the case, is going to support you in optimizing how you show up in your business.
Okay, so now we know that, which is so interesting because I like how you were like, you want to be there sometimes, but you can't be there all the time because when you're there all the time is when stuff starts to go crazy. And I'm sure we have all been guilty of that. So, in addition to acupuncture, do you have some tools maybe for the woman who's like just getting started or something really simple that she can start to do? Or even like maybe to back up, how to check in? Is it just if you have one of those symptoms? Is there any other sort of check-in we can do and be like, okay, I think maybe like I'm a little in overdrive right now and it's time for me to correct that?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice about that?
Yeah, I think, normally I think people know. Sometimes people don't have a sense of how significant the impact is. They're like, oh, I thought that most people wake up at 1:30 in the morning and can't fall back asleep for an hour. Or, yeah, of course I get bloated, doesn't everybody? Or they just get used to having headaches every day or, whatever it may be. And so there can be a real normalization of symptoms. And I often will say to people, just because something is common, it doesn't mean that it's normal. And I think that's
Mm,
a really important differentiation, that yes,
yeah.
there are lots of people who are exhausted, and we're meant to have energy and feel vital during the day. So I think really like checking in of
Mhm.
like, not how do I want to feel, not how do I feel when I'm on vacation laying on the beach, day
Mhm.
to day, how do I feel?
Mm,
Are there symptoms that are coming up that I'm just living with? Do I feel more impatient with my kids? Or, there's little things that if we just slow down enough to check in, our bodies are actually giving us a lot of signals. So
mm,
that's one thing, right? And, talking to a healthcare provider, a health coach who specializes in nervous system health, they can support you in sort of talking through, asking the right questions of, yeah, how are you really doing? Something that can be really helpful too is like grabbing a piece of paper and writing out on an average day all the things that you do. And then how does this make me feel? So,
mm,
am I getting up and I'm exhausted and I'm grabbing another cup of coffee and I haven't had breakfast and I'm rushing to get the kids in the car and get to work and I still haven't eaten breakfast and it's 10 a.m. and I'm going, and I'm working through lunch and doing a spin workout. Like when you start
mm,
to map it out, you'll see the patterns, right?
mm.
So start to think
Yeah.
about where are the times that you're fitting in a moment, even of quiet, a moment of tuning in. Doing any of these exercises that are reflective are in and of itself giving yourself an opportunity to tune in. And something that I say is a really easy, accessible tool that anyone can tune into is your breath. So we hear about breathing a lot and we hear about how it's really important. But when we talk about our autonomic nervous system and all those things that I mentioned, like your heart beating, your lungs breathing, where blood is circulating, your digestive system, the only thing that you have cognitive control over is your breathing. Right? You can
Mm,
slow down your breathing. You can intentionally take a deep breath. And so
mhm,
when you take those moments of pause to do that, you are in and of itself shifting your state of your nervous system into that parasympathetic place, which is that rest and digest state. So even slowing
mm,
down, taking 5 deep breaths, which may take you 30 seconds, is a
mhm.
really powerful tool that you can start to tune into. And then notice, how do you feel after?
Okay. So there's the breathing technique. So you started going into the next question I had. So the breathing technique, there is acupuncture. Is there anything else that you would recommend? Maybe even, and I don't know if this is a thing or not, like how we set up our business or how we structure it or how much, you know what I mean? Like how many hours a day we work at or different things like that. Does any of that play into it or is that really just kind of individualized?
It's quite individualized. I think that we have this as human beings, and especially driven human beings, we have this belief that we can do a lot more in a day than we actually can. So there's that
Mm,
statistic that says that, most tasks are going to take you 30% longer to do. And so part of setting up your day in your business is actually being realistic about what you can get done and what feels good in your body to get done. Because
mm,
if you are, throwing a ton of things on your to-do list that you may or may not be able to do, and then everything is taking about 30% longer, you're essentially finishing every day feeling unsuccessful, feeling like you haven't accomplished the things that you want to accomplish. And in addition to that, you're then moving, like you're completing that day in a stress response because you're like, oh my gosh, now I have so much I have to do tomorrow,
yeah.
right? I think as
Yep.
entrepreneurs, one of the things that can really come up is this idea that like you as a business owner have to do it all because it's your baby, it's the business that you have developed, and we're not meant to do it all. Like we're
Mm,
just not. We're meant to work in a team at Radiant Effect, which is my online health coaching business. We always talk about how we're meant to learn about this and heal in community, in connection. We're not meant to be doing things in isolation. And so it's really important that we are taking that time, taking that opportunity to be with others, to be in, masterminds like you run, to be in health coaching programs with other like-minded people who understand what's going on and can normalize what you're experiencing and validate it.
I love that. I was actually just talking with one of my clients about, we didn't quite go this far, but I love that with like the health coaching group and just surrounding yourself with people who get it and they get what you're going after, because especially if the people closest to you are not supportive or they just don't understand what you're doing, like that can be, I feel like, a whole nother thing, affecting your nervous system all the time, is this like fear of judgment and arguing with people and trying to convince people to be on board who aren't. And so I never really thought of that in regards to like the health coaching group. And I think that's such a smart support for women entrepreneurs, especially.
Yeah, that's why at Radiant Effect, we run all of our programs in community. So there's an aspect of them that are individual coaching programs, but we really believe in the power of community. And so with that, it really, brings together, like you had mentioned, what can people do? And I think one of the first steps that we can do, and the first sort of foundational piece that we provide, is education. We have to understand our nervous systems. We have to understand our bodies and what's going on in order to know how and what to make change in, right? So if we don't understand it, it's very hard to make change, especially lasting change. So we have to be able to have that education around that. And then we also have to be able to, education comes from our heads down. And then we also have to figure out, how do we listen to our bodies? So that idea of what symptoms are coming up or how do I feel, we're so quick always to squash those sensations, even little things. And I say little, like, because they happen all the time, but like, I need to go to the bathroom, right? Like, how often do we just say, oh, I'll do that later? Or I'm thirsty, or I'm tired, right? Our body gives us signals all the time and we ignore them. So we have to be able to feel into our bodies and take that knowledge and that information that our bodies hold and bring that up to our brains. So as business owners, it's like, how does this actually feel? I'm running around doing, the sales and the marketing and the lead generation and my Instagram and my this and my that, and actually delivering my programs or my service. And like, how does that feel? Probably feels really chaotic, right? And so how do we find a little more ease in that?
Yeah, delegating systems, getting virtual assistants, all of that. And I never thought about that as helping your nervous system. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, there's literally so many things that you can do to help with it.
Absolutely.
And I love that awareness piece too, because that has been something that I have been really focused on the past few years, is just really tuning in, like, what feels really good for me, like business wise, body wise, personal life, all of that, and trying to do that more than what am I doing just based off what I think I should be doing or what I think people want me to do. And I think that's a huge message as well for everyone listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, before we talk about all the ways that our listeners can work with you and connect with you further, I have some questions to ask my guests before we wrap it up. First one, do you have a morning routine, an evening routine, neither, both? What's that look like for you right now?
Great question. My morning routine is in flux. I am someone who, and it's great because it's like learning to be adaptable. I'm someone who always had a really, I don't want to say strict, but it was really like a nourishing morning routine for me. I would wake up. I always woke up before my husband, would go out, kind of like get the fireplace going, lay on the floor, stretch a little, meditate for a few minutes, do a little bit of journaling, and then have my coffee. And then we always take the dog out together so that we get outside first thing. And that was like a really solid way that I always got started. And we have an 8-month-old puppy now. And my little puppy
Mm,
doesn't want to, quietly lay on the floor and
yep.
just let you do your thing. So it's been a
Yep.
really interesting transition actually for me in my morning routine of like recognizing it's something I can come back to over time, but
Mm,
how do I adapt to my, current situation? And so my morning routine
mm,
right now looks much more like holding chew toys, drinking a coffee in one hand. We still, of course, get out the door and have a good walk. And then coming back to some of those rituals for me later in the morning. So
yeah.
I've had to shift that. And that has been really hard actually, because,
Mm,
when I come back from the walk, that's when I want to like get down to work.
yep.
But I have to recognize that those are things that really do support me to work. And so
Mhm.
carving out that time when I come back from my walk so that's like something that's in flux. My nighttime routine, it does vary. There's some evenings when I'm in the clinic until, by the time I get home, it's like 9 o'clock. And I'm
Mm,
someone who really likes to be in bed by like 9:45. So on nights like that, it's like
mhm.
I literally get home, brush my teeth, wash my face, have a drink of water, and like get into bed. And other nights, definitely again, like an evening walk. Dogs are so great for that because they force us to get out.
Mhm.
I do try to get off my phone about like 15 to 20 minutes before bed. And that's been always a work in progress. And just kind of have some time to connect with my husband, usually watch a show or something together. So nothing,
Yeah.
nothing crazy. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's such an important reminder too, that because I used to be like in the all or nothing mentality. So I'm like, oh, well, if I can't do it every day or it can't be perfect every day, then I'm just not going to do it. And like you said, it's okay for it to be in flux. It's okay for it to look different certain days, depending on what season you're in too.
Yeah,
Giving yourself that
absolutely.
grace.
Absolutely. And
Um,
prioritizing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. What is your favorite personal development book
Ooh.
or most recent you've read? Because sometimes it's hard for people to give me a favorite.
Hmm. Oh gosh, there's so many. I think the most recent one that I reread is The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. And I love it. I
Mhm.
listen to it on Audible. She's narrating it, and it's really about her story around how she recognized that she was saying no to so many things. Shonda Rhimes is the like founder of Grey's Anatomy and like the writer. So she's like big, high up person.
Mhm.
And she was saying no to all of these opportunities and decided one year she was going to say yes. And it's all about like what that afforded her. How first it was yes to very external things like going to this event or this trip or award show or like whatever, and how it really turned into her saying yes to herself and what that meant
Mhm.
for her showing up in business, her showing up in her personal life, her self-worth, her health, all these things. So I find that like it's really inspirational. So I like that.
Yeah.
And I also just listened to 10x is greater than 2x, which is a
Mhm.
great business building book.
Yeah, I did really love that book. I'm rereading it slowly but surely. The Year of Yes. Do you have a Peloton by any chance?
No.
Okay, so they did a Peloton series. I'm trying to remember now. It was a couple years ago, I think, but they called it like the Year of Yes.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it's got to be based off that because I loved the classes. They were super inspirational, but they would pull little nuggets out of the book and like make that part of the theme. I should actually go back and like redo those rides because I've read the book, but it's been a while. So maybe I need to reread that as well. And I think I got a journal that was like the Year of Yes
Mm.
journal or something. I think there's a
Oh, that's
journal too.
cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
yeah.
that
So that
part. Yeah.
yeah, that one was one of my favorites too. So I will link that in the show notes for everyone listening if you have not listened to that yet. And then my very last question, and this is just like me being nosy, but favorite trip that you've ever been on or a dream bucket list trip on your lists that you want to take?
Hmm. Favorite trip, I would say it was right before it would have been 2019, I think, September 2019. Went to Dubrovnik, Croatia. And that was an incredible trip. It was really surprising for me. I didn't really know what to expect. It was part of like a larger trip, but that was like definitely the highlight place. My husband is a researcher, and so he goes to a lot of different conferences. And so he had a conference there, and I was like, yeah, that's great. I'll come. Who says no to
Yeah,
that?
why not?
And yeah, I was blown away. It was
Mm.
beautiful and yeah, really fun place.
Cool. I love that. You are maybe the second person who has said that. I've always heard Croatia is beautiful, but yeah, you're like the second person I think that has told me that Croatia is like their favorite. And now I'm like, now I need to go.
Yeah, yeah, it's
For sure.
gorgeous.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right, Rachel, tell us how we can work with you, all the places we can find you, and I will be sure to link all this in the show notes too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to be in touch and see what's going on is through Instagram. So my personal Instagram is .ca, and then my online business coaching program. It's not business coaching. I don't know. I was in the
Health
business mode,
coaching.
health coaching. Thanks
Yeah.
for telling me. My online health coaching program, Radiant Effect, with my business partner Meg Aris, is radianteffect.ca on Instagram. So Meg and I are really passionate about nervous system health and supporting busy women to create change in their nervous systems by understanding what I said before. So education, embodiment, reflection. It's our 3-step process. And we have a course called The Healing Point, which is a 4-week self-paced online module program. We're doing a live facilitation that starts on April 1st. Sharing this information feels so important to us for people across all different industries, whoever you are. Understanding your nervous system is like understanding your health, the foundations of your health. So it's a great price point offer. And yeah, we'd love to offer everyone too who's listening a discount. So I can give you a discount code. Yeah. And we can go from there.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I almost called you Meg because you just said Meg. And I'm like, no, this is not.
That's okay.
I
I
thought
talked about my business coaching program. So, you know.
Well, when you said that, I like kind of perked up. I'm like, oh, what's their business coaching program? I didn't know. Maybe that was like a Freudian slip, right? Maybe that's like next
Maybe.
down the road, like combining the two things. That would be cool.
That would be definitely supportive.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I have loved this conversation. I'm sure everyone listening did as well. And definitely be sure to reach out to Rachel and connect with her. Thank you again.
Thank you.